The puck has just dropped on the U18 World Championships, and here we are doing a preview, so strap yourselves in and let's see who the top teams at this tournament are.
You are Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On this show, we break down everything prospects related for you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. I'm your host, Sebastian High, the USHL scout over at Elite Prospects. And on today's show, we're going to be previewing the U18 World Championships, which have just begun. Game 1 has just dropped the puck as I'm recording this now, and I'm hopefully going to be able to upload this before the third game begins. But we have a lot to look forward to at this tournament. So on today's show, we're going to be previewing the tournament by looking at the lineups of the 4 strongest teams at this tournament, which are Sweden, Canada, the USA, and Czechia in no particular order for now. And we'll be looking at some of the top players there and overall at some guys who might just have massive impacts at this tournament. And we'll be saving the rest of the teams for a future episode, but we'll be getting to that, so no worries on that front. But let's just dive straight into it because we have so much to talk about. And I'll be referencing an article series that we have over at Elite Prospects throughout this episode. All the articles are going to be linked down below, authored by the regional scouts of each of these respective regions. So Jimmy Hamrin wrote our Sweden article. I wrote the one on Team USA. Mitch Brown wrote the one on Team Canada. And Hansa Zufal wrote the one on Team Czechia, which are the articles that we're going to be talking about today. We'll be keeping the other ones for the next episode. So let's just dive straight into things here, because in the first segment, we'll be looking at teams Sweden and Canada, likely the 2 biggest contenders for gold at this tournament. In the second segment, we'll be looking at Team USA, an article that I wrote, and the players that I'm most familiar with at this tournament. So we'll take a little bit extra time to delve into that. And finally, we'll be wrapping up the show in the final segment with Team Czechia, who are a bit of an underdog, I think, at this tournament, and should still be quite respected for having a really, really interesting lineup of high-end defensemen, some interesting forwards as well to get the scoring up. But how they're going to do remains to be seen. We'll see how the chips fall at the end of the day, but this is a bit of a wide open tournament, apart from maybe Team Sweden at the top of the class in terms of quality. So a lot will be fought out amongst the group stages here as well. So lots of fun stuff to look forward to at this tournament. Team Canada won gold last year against Team USA in the final, came back from 3-2 down in the third period after Trevor Connolly took a not brilliant 5-minute major, which allowed Team Canada to just dominate on the power play. And I believe they came out of that power play with a 5-3 lead, scoring 3 goals. Team USA is going to look to change a little bit from that performance last year, but they lack the same superstar quality that they had in James Higgins last season. So let's just kick things off here with Team Sweden, however, because I think that this is likely going to be the favorite at this tournament, even though Team Canada always wins. And and they have a significant amount of talent this year as well. But Sweden, as you'll see, just have so much quality throughout their lineup, top to bottom. Kicking it off with the forwards. The big names here are Anton Frondell, who is a top 10 likely pick in this year's draft class. Viggo Bjork, who might be a top 3 pick in next year's draft, easily a top 10 talent at this stage for 2026, having broken records in J20 scoring. And Ivar Stenberg is another D-1 who's been scoring a lot this season, playing really, really well. It's one of the most creative outlets for Frölunda in the SHL playoffs as a D-1, which is not something that we see often at all. And he's a really intelligent guy. The question is the puck skills, is the skill going to be enough to light things up at this tournament? Frondell, for his part, is going to be the 1C, the two-way piece. Very, very solid defensively, good physical habits, and the shot is the best in this year's draft class and likely the best at this tournament as well. So he's going to be a constant danger, but that transition threat is just not something that's really been growing in his game all that much just yet, but we'll see how that goes at this tournament. A couple other players I wanted to shout out here among the forwards for Team Sweden. Jacob Ease Wozniak has plummeted down draft boards this season, but he's been a really, really solid defensive contributor this year, both at the junior and the professional level. He's skating a lot more actively off puck, and I think that he's also become a more dangerous shooter as the year's gone on, and a player that's actually been rising up for me in the draft rather than falling, unlike most draft boards have his trend going. Milton Yestreen is a really intense two-way player, very explosive kind of skating style, and he's just constantly making intelligent plays with the puck on his stick at high pace with give and goes. Very projectable, kind of like third line piece in the NHL longer term. And at this tournament, he's going to be a workhorse going both directions, likely going to be playing a middle six role at this tournament as well, and just really facilitating play and doing a lot of the dirty work for Team Sweden. Then you got a couple intelligent bottom of the lineup players among the forwards like Eddie Genborg and Eric Nielsen, who just make consistent, intelligent decisions with the puck on their sticks and are quite reliable defensively as well. Victor Klingsell is another reliable contributor for this team who has a knack for finding open space and just really builds a lot of chemistry with his line mates. Philip Ekberg is a name that we've heard a lot in recent years if you're active in the draft circles, especially on Twitter and on social media. Very, very skilled puck handler. He scored like 3 or 4 goals in his Hockey Allsvenskan debut as a 16-year-old just like a year and a half or 2 years ago. And he's been playing in the OHL with the Ottawa 67s this season and hasn't really gotten many like top of the lineup opportunities, but has been able to shine with his handling skill lower down the lineup and should be a really decent secondary scoring threat there for Team Sweden. Other names you should probably know here among forwards, you have Torkel Yenisyer, a very young D-1 player playing in the USHL who's fast, defensively reliable at forward, good forechecker and good on the PK, could be a solid fourth-line piece on this team. Melvin Novotny is a creative winger with decent mobility. His skating isn't always the prettiest, but his agility and 10-2 use make him really escapable in tight. And last but not least, Theo Stockselius is a pretty big and slick offensive player who's intelligent positionally and can move up and down the lineup wherever Sweden's going to need him. But the D-core, I think, is also something interesting here for Team Sweden. You only have a couple big names to build around, but a lot of reliable, solid players that are 16 or 17 years old that just fill out the core. Sasha Boumedienne and Carl Anborn are likely going to be the top defensive pair. Boumedienne's a left shot D, was the youngest player, I believe, in college hockey this season, at least one of the youngest as a 17-year-old, playing pretty big minutes on the blue line there for Boston University. And his skating has gotten a lot better as the years progressed, which is making a really big difference in how he's defending and how comfortable he is activating offensively, as well as he's able to make his way back defensively without, getting beat by counterattackers. Carl Anborn, for his part, just a very calm and composed and reliable right shot defenseman. He makes very smart and simple plays, and every player that plays next to him just gets better as the year progresses. And he's a guy that can just plug and play on the Sweden lineup wherever you need him to kind of solidify things, but he's very clearly going to be a top 4 piece. One last defenseman I wanted to shout out here is Malte Vass, who's a defensive defenseman who uses his reach, mobility, and aggression to kill plays very effectively. I think he's going to be a bottom pair guy at this tournament, but overall a guy who's just going to be very reliable down the lineup for Team Sweden and a steadying presence in that slot. In goal, you have a couple interesting names. I think the two I'm going to cover here are Mans Gos and Love Herrenstram. Love is likely going to be the starter. He was already the starter last year, so he has the experience at this tournament. He played quite solidly as well at the Five Nations in February, where he played most of the games, and the management seems to really trust him in net. He's athletic, he's intelligent, tracks the puck well, likely the starting netminder in the crease here for Team Sweden. But Mans Gos is also a high-ranking Swedish goalie among like draft eligibles this season. He's pretty big, he's quite calm in net, and he has some of the natural athleticism as well to just make those explosive cross-crease transitions. So that's what Sweden's lineup's looking like, and I think it's going to be a difficult one to kind of unseat. You have a lot of players here with pro experience that are going to be playing high like intensity, mobile, intense games, just constantly pressuring in both directions, and they have that potency and the skill offensively to make teams hurt as well. But Team Canada is nothing to shy away from either, especially if they get some extra reinforcements here. They haven't actually fully announced their lineup just yet. They're waiting until tomorrow morning to finalize because there's a couple players whose playoff series are ending in the CHL leagues who are going to be able to get added to the lineup. And that includes potential generational talent, Landon DuPont on the right side of the blue line, as well as Keaton Verhoef, who's a right shot defenseman who could be going top 2 or top 3 at next year's draft in 2026 and was great in the WHL this season. He's likely going to be added in. You also have Cole Reshny, who's been scoring at a freakish pace throughout the WHL playoffs and at the tail end of the regular season, who's likely going to be added in. So a lot of this talent might still be injected in, which isn't confirmed just yet, but keep an eye out for that, as Team Canada could get even stronger here before the tournament begins for them. But let's go through the article here that Mitch Brown wrote on Team Canada, and there's a lot of talent here at forward. Starting off with Braden Coots, just a high-intensity, skilled forward, likely a top 20 or top 15 candidate for us in this year's draft class. Ethan Zada is a hard-hitting playmaker who didn't score the most at the OHL level this season, but he should be able to contribute from a bottom of the lineup role with Team Canada. Alessandro Di Orio is a D-1 and a very skilled, well-rounded underage player. He's a really good shooter and passer alike, and is particularly dynamic on the power play. So he's a guy that might be able to see like middle 6 minutes, and it's just very fun to watch. Lev Katzen is a just wrecking ball of a player. Very, very violent. He brings a lot of energy, defensive ability, and he's also gotten a lot more disciplined as the year has gone on, and should be a really solid checking piece down the lineup for Team Canada. Brady Martin is just a really, really solid two-way piece, plays with energy, plays with intelligence, very deceptive and creative, and he's constantly trying to hit the highlight reel, dissecting opposing defenses, dangling through multiple layers of opposition defenders, and overall, he's a very heavy hitter as well. There's a lot to like here with the player, but pace and skating might hold him back a little bit, but should still be a really, really solid contributor there for Team Canada. Last but not least, among the forwards, we have Cameron Schmidt. Just an insane amount of dynamic skill here for Cam Schmidt, who could really raise his draft stock massively with a dominant offensive display at this tourney. Just really, really dynamic in terms of the skating speed, the dynamic goal scoring, the shot quality, the playmaking skill, the handling. These are all very high-end grades, but the consistency's been a little bit inconsistent, but he's very physical despite being 5'7", going for reverse hits, really good leverage mechanics. I think he's a guy that could really explode at this tournament. But let's switch over to the blue line, as we have a lot of underage talents here to keep an eye on. The one draft eligible from this year, an 18-year-old at this tournament, is Jackson Smith, who's a defense-first shutdown defenseman who moves wonderfully at the international level for Team Canada. He should be the number 1 defenseman at this tournament, and with his combination of physicality, mobility, and also the offensive activation game he's been able to show as the years progressed with the Tri-City Americans, he's a great defenseman to build around. Beyond him, you have a bunch of mobile, dynamic two-way defensemen who have a lot of offensive skill. Starting off with Carson Carrolls, who's playing massive minutes as a D-1 with Prince George in the WHL this season, as well as Xavier Villeneuve, who is potentially the most dynamic player on this roster before Landon DuPont has been added. He's like the lateral explosiveness, the quickness. It's so Lane Hudson-like how he can make players miss at the offensive blue line. He's so skillful and creative with his playmaking incursions, really pushes the pace in the offensive zone, and he's gotten a lot better in terms of withstanding physical pressure and also just getting involved with an active stick defensively as the season has progressed. But lastly, I also want to give a shout out here to Quinn Beauchesne of the Guelph Storm, who is a really solid skater, and there's a lot of NHL caliber tools here, and he should be able to play a bottom of the lineup role for Team Canada, especially if players like Ryan Lynn don't get added to the lineup here at the end of the day. But in goal, I think it's a pretty obvious question here for Team Canada, as Jack Ivankovic is going to be likely the number 1 at this tournament. He was already the number 3 for Team Canada at this tourney last season, and he backstopped Canada to Helene Gretzky Gold and became the youngest goaltender to start for Team Canada at the World Junior Championship in the past 25 years as well, where he had a really good performance against Team Latvia, but got literally no scoring support, whether it be in the shootout or in regulation. So Team Canada lost that game, but it was not for his his lack of trying. But that wraps things up here for the first segment. In the next one, we'll be talking about Team USA before wrapping things up in the final one with Team Czechia. But first, a quick message from our sponsors here at Locked On NHL Prospect. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, and if you've never been to a live NHL playoff game, it's unlike anything else. The intensity, the speed, the buildup, it's next level. The energy in the building can truly blow your eardrums out. And thanks to Gametime, getting in the door is easier and more affordable than ever before. Gametime is the fastest way to grab cheap playoff tickets, even for those must-see matchups. Prices actually drop as the puck drop gets closer, and with last-minute deals, you can save up to 60%. Their app even shows you panoramic seat view, so you know exactly what you're getting before you buy. And with Gametime ticket coverage, I know that I'm protected, whether it's gate cancellation protection, job loss insurance, or their 24-hour return guarantee. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's keep things going here with Team USA in the second segment because there's a lot to look forward to here in terms of quality in this lineup, especially with the players that they've added from the CHL and from the NCAA, apart from just the regular NTDP group. There's quite a few players here that I want to give a shout outs to. You have the usual suspects in terms of the NTDPers, so I'm going to do more of a quick fire round for the normal players because you've been hearing me talk about the NTDP here all season already. So I'm going to not talk too much about these players. If you're curious to hear more about them, pretty much any other video on the channel that includes USA hockey or NTDP draft eligibles is going to go way in depth on these guys. Cole McKinney, Jack Mrtka, Richard Gallant are going to be the top line here as they have been all season long. They have a lot of chemistry together, really good connective line where you have a balance of two-way impact with McKinney, goal scoring with Mrtka, play connecting with Richard Gallant. They've been playing just nicely together all season long. On the second line, seemingly you're going to have Cullen Potter down the middle, who's been playing at center for Arizona State University this season, making the leap to college hockey a year earlier than expected and really betting on himself by doing so. He would have been handed really the 1C role this season with the NTDP had he stayed there, but seemed to have paid off for him as he's really rounded out his game, become a lot more decisive with his decision-making. And overall, I think he's a guy that is really going to push the pace in transition, be a dynamic puck carrier, which is something that the NTDP has needed this season. So for Team USA to have him as a top six center, I think really changes the outlook of what style of hockey they're able to play. And on his wing, you also have Will Horkoff, who's now back with this team after making the jump from the NTDP to college hockey in like December of this year, an uncharacteristic leap to the University of Michigan midway through the season. But he's a very intelligent off-the-wall guy, can get pucks to the middle of the ice with control, really accurate passer, quite physically involved, not the most perhaps like individually dynamic or pace pushing guy, but a really solid connective piece on that line, especially alongside a player like William Moore, who's just a high end guy in terms of the shooting, the handling, the passing ability. He's a really like dynamic player with the puck on his stick, but still the physical resistance is a work in progress, but against his own age group, he may very well dominate. Moving on to the bottom six, we have some dynamic skill with LJ Mooney, who just brings a ton of pace and playmaking ability there from the third line, as well as Mikey Burchild, a D-1 player who works very hard, solid along the boards, quite a bit of an undersized player, but he's been really effective since making the jump to the U18 team in the past couple of months, as well as Jacob Psenicka, who probably slots in here on the third line. Maybe he's a fourth liner at this tournament. We'll see. He's a bit of a plug-and-play winger who can play with pace up and down the lineup and bring some more physicality and defensive intensity to lines that need a bit of insulation. Lastly, on the bottom line, you're going to have guys like Teddy Mutrin, his brother Casey Mutrin, and Matthew Lansing potentially. Lansing was playing with the Fargo Force in the USHL this year. Pretty solid, like two-way, like hard-working center who could just play in that bottom six down the middle. Casey Mutrin is a really direct, powerful guy, D-1 player to really keep your eye out on for next year's draft class, as he's aggressive, really, really powerful player, very fun to watch. I think that he can be bumped up into the top six if the NTDP wants a boost in physicality. And his older brother, Teddy, is a draft eligible for this year, has some of the similar qualities as well in terms of power and middle drive, but he's a bit of a linear north-south player. I think that the scanning needs a bit of work, but he's going to be a really solid checking and goal scoring threat there in the bottom six for Team USA. The last two forwards here on the list, we have Andrew O'Neill, who's also contending for that 4C spot with Team USA. He's also pacey, defensively responsible, but not overly dangerous with the puck on his stick. And last but not least, from the Des Moines Buccaneers of the USHL, potentially the most dynamic player on this roster, and likely a guy who's going to be restricted to the bottom of the lineup, at least to start the tournament before getting bumped up, which he hopefully will be as the tournament progresses. That's Benjamin Keevan. Really a skilled player with the puck on his stick. He's dynamic as a handler and a playmaker, and overall a guy I think can really push the pace and create with the puck on his stick. Had a broken wrist also earlier this season, so his handling is becoming way more fluid and dynamic as the years progressed, and he's a guy that I think, if given a top opportunity, is really going to get a hold on that role and be one of the bigger producers for this team. But moving on to the defensive side, we have Blake Fiddler from the Edmonton Oil Kings who's added into this lineup. He's an elite skater, really solid transition defender. He kills aggressive gaps as well against the rush, and his breakout game is quite dynamic too. Makes very quick decisions, uses his big body and his mobility to create a space, to create a pocket of space to make a pass from, and he's very precise with those outlet passes. The offensive impact's been a little bit come and go this season, but he's going to be playing big minutes on this team and will likely get some offensive starts as well. Working our way down the left side of defense now, we have Maceo Phillips, big 6'6", 227-pound defensive defenseman who will be like a second or third pairing guy here for the NTDP. Asher Barnett is the team captain, very reliable, decent skater, makes a good first pass. Nothing flashy about his game, but he might be playing alongside Blake Fiddler on that top pairing to just lock things down and to try to neutralize opposing top lines as well. Drew Schock is an intelligent two-way puck-moving defenseman, and he's the fulcrum for Team USA in transition. He links plays well in the neutral zone, and he's a very solid skater as well. He can be a bit physically overwhelmed. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but has quick feet and good positional habits to keep the inside position, and I think he's going to be pretty solid at this tournament for the Americans. Then we've got Donnie Bracco, who can bring a lot of like activation and offensive skill from like a third pairing role. He's often been a bit sheltered with the NTDP this season. Like defensively can definitely be exploited, but the offensive activations are really skilled, and he's constantly trying to push the pace in the offensive zone. And wrapping things up on the right side, you've got Charlie Trethewey on the second pairing, really mobile, solid guy. He's become a lot more reliable here as the year has progressed. Lincoln Keene, who's a D-1 talent who moves really well, makes a confident first pass, and he's going to just keep a very simple and effective game, likely on the third pairing here at this tournament. And then finally, you have Garrett Lindbergh, a decently mobile, undersized right-shot defenseman who has decent leverage mechanics, defends the rush by angling opponents towards the boards, but has a lack of potentially like game-breaking qualities. Then let's move on to the goaltenders here, and this isn't the strongest area for the Americans. You have three goaltenders who've all been putting up about like 880 to 895 save percentages this season. Definitely playing up in age groups, right, against the USHL and NCAA competition. But I think that Patrick Quinlan probably has the inside route here to be the starter for the Americans. He's a very competitive netminder. He bounces back from allowing poor goals, and I think that the mental fortitude is something that will play in his favor. But you also have Joey Slavic and Harrison Bedecker, a D-1, who are going to be contending for minutes here at the tournament as well. But that wraps things up here for the second segment, looking at Team USA. And the final one, we'll be wrapping up the show looking at Team Czechia and who they're bringing to this tournament, as there's a lot of talent to keep an eye on. But first, a quick message from our sponsors here at Locked On NHL Prospects. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub. Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, from EA Sports College Football 2025 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed. As easily as you stream your favorite TV shows, it's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, you can watch over 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and far more. Head to Amazon.com/FireTV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd generation. Alrighty, let's wrap up the show here with Team Czechia here for the preview. And there's a lot of interesting names on this team, and would definitely recommend that you check out the article written by my colleague Hansa Zufal over at Elite Prospects if you have either a plus or a premium subscription, and they will all be linked down below, as I mentioned in the intro. But let's look at the forward core here first for Team Czechia, because I think the best quality comes on the defensive line. And kicking it off with Adam Banat, whose Youngstown Phantoms were just eliminated from the USHL playoffs and is now able to join Team Czechia for the tournament. He's missing, I believe, the first game here against Team USA, but should be good to go beyond that. And he's a very, very hardworking, dynamic playmaker, player who's gotten a lot better as the years progressed in the USHL. There's an array of question marks in terms of it was an NHL projection, but at this junior level, amongst this age group, he's proven time and time again that he's among the most dominant players internationally, period. He's been fantastic internationally for Team Czechia in the past, and even as recently now as the Hlinka Gretzky Cup back in August, where he was truly dominant. And he's a guy that with quick feet and a lot of toughness and a lot of intensity is definitely going to be trying to carry play from the defensive zone all the way to the offensive zone and then make something happen with his hands, with his playmaking. The goal scoring isn't quite the highest end, but he's going to have targets to finish off chances for him. Simon Kadolitsky is another player who had a really impressive season this year in U18 Finnish hockey, scoring in 28 of 30 regular season games, finishing with 52 points. He's a really big guy, decent skater, and he probably is going to be a middle six piece on this lineup. You also have Adam Novotny, a really well-rounded guy who's potentially going to be a first-round contender next year in 2026. He's already 200 pounds, has a great shot, and he's just constantly trying to push the pace forward. And he was really solid at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup and even won bronze at the World Juniors here this past December and January. Matej Pekar from the Seattle Thunderbirds is a guy who can do a little bit of everything. He's very competitive and aggressive, can dish out hits, and he's probably going to be in the top 6 in terms of just a spark plug who can bring the energy, be that F1 on the forecheck, and constantly push up opponents back. Another bulldog here on the team is David Kirchal, who's been playing in the U20 circuit in Czechia. He's just a very physical guy who tries to bully his opponents. He has a good, quick first couple steps and is going to be that bottom 6 intense checking winger. Last but not least, among the forwards, I want to give a shout out here to Vit Zahayski of the Kamloops Blazers in the WHL, who's going to look to redeem himself from a bit of a weaker performance at the WHL level this season. He's very quick and agile, likely going to be playing in that top 6 to really push the pace from the wing. He's very dangerous when attacking up the middle of the ice, and he's even tried a Michigan goal here this season. He's quite a good handler, very creative with the puck on his stick, and quite an active forechecker as well. So he brings a lot of different things to the equation. But last but not least, let's talk about the defensemen. And I think that this defense core is made by that right side of defense. You have Radim, Mrtka, and Max Psenicka of the WHL. Mrtka's playing with Seattle. Psenicka's playing with the Portland Winterhawks. And both of these guys arrived in the middle of the season and are big, mobile, reliable defensemen in their own zone. Very comfortable defending the rush, long range, very difficult to beat wide. And I think those two guys are going to be the most hellish right side of defense to really face at this tournament. So left wingers are not going to have a very fun time facing Team Czechia. Those two guys with their range, with their intelligence, are going to be really, really impactful here for the Czechs at this tournament. You have a couple other guys like Stepan Cherny, who's going to be a likely top pairing guy alongside Radim Mrtka, a really solid skater. He's offensive minded, which works nicely alongside of Mrtka's more defensive leaning game. And he's a very solid power play quarterback as well, who moves the puck well east to west and can connect those two sides of the offensive zone on the man advantage. But last but not least, let's talk about the goaltenders here for Team Czechia, as we have Ondrej Stebatok of the Portland Winterhawks in the WHL, who's likely going to be the number 1 goalie at this tournament, probably going to be playing all the games here at the tournament. And he was also the starter at the Hlinka Gretzky on the way to a silver medal finish there in last summer. And he was a really big part of that tournament. He was shutting things down and had a .947 save percentage, which is just obscene. His backup is going to be Michael Ursulak, who's been playing in the U20 circuit with Energy Karlovy Vary in Czechia, and played a really solid campaign there this season with a 902 save percentage in 34 games. And he also covered the back of Štěpánek at the Hlinka. So the same pairing that you're likely going to be seeing here at the tournament for the Czechs. And overall, I think this is a lineup that's going to be a dark horse contender. I think this team could beat out guys like Team USA, maybe even Team Canada, depending on the types of reinforcements that are going to be arriving here between now and puck drop on their first game. Very curious to see what happens there, but I'd love to hear from you down below in the comments. What are your thoughts on this tournament? Who do you think is going to finish with the gold medal, the silver medal, the bronze medal? Who's going to be the top scorer? Going to be discussing all of those things in the next episode, where we break down the final rosters at this tournament, as well as the predictions of what's going to end up happening. So keep your eyes open for that. That should be coming out tomorrow, if not later tonight. But overall, it's a very exciting tournament, and things have kicked off. So lots happening in the hockey world right now. And this is really the last hurrah for draft eligibles who are eliminated from the playoffs in their respective leagues, to show off their qualities and to push their way up draft boards. So you might see some really big swings here in terms of draft valuation as well. I'd love to hear who your favorites are to either rise or fall significantly based off their performances at this tourney. But that wraps things up. If you're listening on your favorite podcasting platform, please do make sure to make us your first listen of the day. We always appreciate our everydayers here on the pod. And for your second listen of the day, you can head on over to Locked On Fantasy Hockey, where Flip and Steel break down everything you need to know to build yourself a sustainable and competitive fantasy roster. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I'm your host, Sebastian High, and I hope to catch you listening again very, very soon.